can. Hello. I'll let Jay figure this out slowly. Welcome. Hi. I'm Seth Rogen. I assume everyone can hear me. I hope you can. Hello. And yeah, this is our panel on comedy for caregivers. We have a great group of funny people who have dealt with being caretakers and that type of thing in their own way. And they're here to talk about their experiences. And I couldn't be more thankful to our group: Howie Mandel, Nicole Byer, Chris Garcia, Jay Smiles, Jessimae, Peluso. Thank you all so much for coming and sharing your stories with us, most importantly. I really, really appreciate that. I'm going to start with you, Howie.
Okay.
I'm first of all, thank you so much. I'm a huge fan of yours. I don't like to hear this probably, but I grew up watching you and love you very much. So
I love you too, buddy.
It's always exciting to see you and to talk to you. You've been a vocal advocate about mental health and ending stigma around cognitive diseases. Can you just tell us a little bit about how your personal experience with Alzheimer's has inspired you to do this? And
my mom is suffering from late stage Alzheimer's. My mom was the rock of my family. My mom was. I never missed a day. I've been living out here for like 45 years in LA. I never missed one day of speaking to my mom.
Wow. That sets a bad standard for all Jewish children across the planet.
But I never spent one day of talking to my mom. My mom was the top salesperson in Canada in real estate and condos, very prolific, very smart. Every friend I ever had in my life in Canada would speak to my mom before they would speak to their own mom. And then maybe 15 or 20 years ago, her personality started to change, which was very, puzzling. And when she finally got the diagnosis, not only was it incredibly devastating for her, but it's, when you get a diagnosis like that for somebody you love, it's like they go away, but they're still there, and it's really hard. And she's at the point now where she doesn't even know who I am, and she can't really function without 24-hour care. She has to be fed. I still go in every 3 weeks and sit with her to kind of explain who I am. And I found the best way for my coping, besides being there to take care of whatever her needs are to survive, is humor. And I have found ways in my own life. I believe that all humor comes out of darkness anyway. I mean, even as a little kid, if you're watching a clown fall over, you're laughing at the misfortune of somebody you don't know. Or if two guys walk into a bar, unless something fucked up happens to one of those people, it's not a joke.
Not a good joke.
So, I kind of find the humor, and that kind of gets me through. And if you look at the two masks of drama, it's tragedy and comedy. They're very similar. There's a thin line. There is no line between them. My mom always loved flowers and roses. And I remember, a couple of years ago when she could still speak, I thought on Mother's Day, it might be fun to send her a dozen roses every hour on the hour. Now, so I sent her a dozen roses every hour on the hour, and waiting for her to call and say thank you, or these are great, or this is an amazing gesture. She didn't call, and I called her at that evening at about 7:00, and I go, Mom, and she goes, I can't fucking talk to you. She never talked like that. And I go, what's wrong? She goes, get me out of this fucking hole. Get me out of this place. And I go, why? What's wrong, Mom? And she goes, the fucking gardener is storing everything in my apartment. Surrounded by all these flowers, with the thought that the gardener is keeping all of them, which is hysterical and kind of gets me to the next day, and I can tell a funny story about what is a very dark and, you just feel helpless. But what I've learned throughout my entire life as somebody who's very open about mental health and, even my own struggles, is that you're not alone. And you have no idea who is suffering along the same lines as you are. And if we could all just smile and laugh, I don't know, there's something about laughter and finding humor in something that is a superpower that kind of gets you to the next, to whatever that is real is now. And if I could laugh right now, I'll be okay tomorrow. And that's what my little philosophy is. That's how I'm getting through what is a very dark and hard struggle, not only in my own mind, but, just watching somebody I love and need kind of disappear.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Jay Smiles is futzing with her background.
I know, exactly. The real comedy show
Going
here.
in and out. Jay, stop
figuring out how to get her camera on.
Tie your hands behind your back and everything will be okay.
She's stealing focus a little bit from your beautiful answer, but I think it's but no, seriously, thank you for sharing that, and that is exactly the whole point of this, is that people need to hear they're not alone, and it is inspiring to see how people are able to turn their pain into
just one quick funny story. Is my friend, I have a friend that also has a mother in the same facility, and he told me a story that he'd walk in and he'd go, "Mom, how are you? I love you." She goes, "Okay, but Mrs. Dowdy in room 204 keeps stealing my underpants." And he goes, "Oh, it's okay, Mom. Anyway, let's just talk." You kind of gotta, when you have somebody like this, there's shit that's going on. You don't say no, she's not. You just say, okay. And then every day he would walk in, and she'd go, "This fucking Mrs. Dowdy is stealing my underpants. Mrs. Dowdy is stealing my," every day for like 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks later, he walks in, and the nurse walks up, and she goes, "I'm really sorry," and hands him a pile of 24 pairs of underpants, and just says, "Mrs. Dowdy took these. We're very sorry."
She actually was. That's the problem. If you find yourself in a weird situation.
Hey, stop pressing buttons.
You didn't press anything.
It's a perfect crime.
Did it?
Jay, you have a few minutes to figure it out. I'm going to go to Nicole now.
What's really weird is I didn't want to say anything, but I haven't pressed anything since it started.
All right, Mrs. Dowdy.
We'll help you get through it. I'm going to go, Nicole. Thank you for joining us, Nicole. It's a real pleasure. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of yours. I love you all the time. I got to do live improv with you recently, which was a thrilling thing. You've gone through very tough times personally, and you also are someone who has remained a beacon comedically to me, and someone who always manages to carry a comedic energy that I find to be impressive and incredibly admirable. So maybe you could just talk about a little bit how you navigated that personally, and how it's affected your comedy.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. What kind things you said. Thank you. I haven't dealt with Alzheimer's, but I've dealt with both my parents they're no longer with us. They're on vacation up north. That's what I say. But after my mom died, I found that making jokes with my sister helped my sister, smile and feel more like herself. And it felt like the darker my jokes got, the harder she would laugh. So just me and my sister, truly just in the living room saying the darkest shit to each other and just laughing so hard. And when my dad died, I was doing improv classes, and it sounds dumb to be the thing that really helped me the most was object work, but
not at all, not for comedians.
It helps so much to be okay, so I'm dealing with settling his estate, dealing with trying to sell his house, but on Tuesdays, oh boy, I get to jerk off a giant elephant dick in improv class. So for me, comedy kind of saved me in a way, I would be sad and then come up with a joke and then laugh about it. And then when I do shows, you'd workshop it. And then a lot of my jokes do come from a darker place. So yeah, I think it's you could be sad and of course work through your emotions, but I don't think you can forget to smile. No matter how dark shit gets, Howie's story about the underwear stuff, that's so funny. And that's so funny to present the underwear that weren't being stolen, but it's let's just play into it. So yeah, to me, comedy is very, very important when sad shit's happening.
And have you found that the more you've talked about it, the more people have resonated with it, and your audiences have liked it, and people receive your comedy in a more resonant way?
Well, when I first started doing stand-up, I wrote a stand-up joke about my dead parents, but I was 21 at the time. Two other 21-year-olds who were My parents are alive. Like, but the older I've gotten and the older like my audiences have gotten and my friends have gotten, now it's like, oh, we're part of the Dead Dad Club or the Dead Mom Club. So it's like just like a kind of shorthand that you can have with people who now are experiencing what you've been through.
Yeah, you were wise beyond your year. You aged into your material. Thank God. I have a question for Chris Garcia, a comedian. You have a comedy special. This is not happening. You have a podcast scattered. That's great. And you lost your father to his battle with Alzheimer's in 2017, and your podcast to some degree. Why don't you tell us the choice to share your dad's story and how comedy influenced that entire process for you?
Well, my dad had Alzheimer's for 10 years, and you all know how devastating it is, and it's really hard to do material, be like, so LeBron James is in the news, and it's just like so consuming that you feel it in your heart, and just comedy, laughter gets you through it. Like, Alzheimer's is devastating. It never gets any better. It is so bleak, but it doesn't mean it's not also hilarious and beautiful at times, and we have to have that space where we're allowed to laugh. Like, one day my mom called me and she said, my mom's just like this little Cuban lady, and she calls me and she's like, I need to tell you something. I'm like, fine. She's like, Papi was very horny today. And I'm like, no. I'm like, no. She's like, I can't tell people at church, motherfucker. Papi was horny. And I was like, fine. She's like, Papi was very horny. He picked me up. He picked me up against the wall. And then he stopped himself and said, I can't do this. I have a wife and 2 kids. My dad tried to cheat on my mom with my mom. And he didn't do it because he's a gentleman. Apparently a gentleman with a type, which is like a 4'8" Cuban lady. And
he's consistent.
You have to laugh. You have to let it in. Because that's like the lifeboat that'll help you get back to shore, right? Because these waters are so bleak, Like, my dad, I remember when he became incontinent, that was so difficult because my dad's my hero. We were very close. Like, when I was a little kid, he'd take me to get a haircut, and the barber would be like, how do you want your haircut? I'd be like, I want it like my dad's. Like, my dad's my guy, So there's that moment. Sorry, I'm like tearing up a little bit. But there's that moment where you have to change your own parent's diaper, and that moment is so difficult. Like, this is, it's like such a mind fuck to this person raised me, and now I'm changing their diaper, and it's a moment I'll never forget because it's the moment I discovered my dad has a big ass dick. And I saw it, I was like, what the hell? It's like, is this what is happening here? Because mine's not like that. It's like a side effect of Seroquel that I don't know about is that my dad has a huge hog all of a sudden. And then I was like, did I get mom's dick? Do I?
You don't know what those side of the family think is of.
Take care of someone when you're resentful of them, but it is like it's so dark. You're changing your dad's diaper, and you're like, what? No, get out of here. What is this? And like, we can't hide, and it's dark, but like, when things get so dark as they do when you're a caretaker for Alzheimer's, it doesn't mean they just don't keep on getting funnier, It is like Alzheimer's is a crazy disease, and it makes people say things that are wrong, and I will premise this story with that. Like, sometimes I'll say fucked up stuff, and it's just part of the disease. We've all seen it. But there was this one day, my dad, doctors just throw whatever medicine at a patient, and they don't really know how to gauge it with Alzheimer's, and I think they overprescribed some Seroquel. My dad got drowsy. He fell and he hit his head, and he ended up in the hospital, and it was here in Los Angeles, and it just happened to be the day when the Space Shuttle Endeavour was landing in Los Angeles. They made a big deal out of it, and my dad was just drowsy. Like, he was very drowsy. He's in the hospital. It is really, it's really scary, and the thing that was really sad is that my dad worked on the Space Shuttle Endeavour. My dad was a machinist that made parts that went up in this space shuttle that is it's not just a space shuttle. It's like the Michael Jordan of space shuttles. And my dad is so proud of this. To be part of like American history, the Endeavor is flying. It's making its rounds around Los Angeles. It's taking like a victory lap. My dad's in the hospital on this day. No, he doesn't. He's in airplane mode. Like he can't like, he doesn't know what's going on. It's that little company in Long Beach. The space shuttle is flying by. Like it's like on top of another plane and it's just flying by the coast. People are going outside to look at this because it's a historic event, and it's just not processing with my dad, and it's so sad. It's later this day. It's visiting hours are over. My dad hasn't recognized me or my sister or my mom. We're right by his bed with the nurse there, and my dad's just kind of a zombie, and it's very scary. It's been a very hard day, and suddenly he notices my mom's purse. Like it's something just like jogged his memory. He sees my mom's purse. My dad's a real gentleman, and he would always carry my mom's purse. Like she was little, and even though he was like a tough guy, he would just like walk around with his purse on his shoulder, and he sees her purse, and he like comes to it for like a second. He's like, "Matica," that's her name. He's like, "Matica, negra, ay, ¿cómo está?" And he like recognizes her, and he's like, he's like, he kisses her hand, and like he recognizes her, and they kiss, and like it's this beautiful moment, right? And my dad and I wanted to cry, but my dad's a tough guy, and he hated when I cried, and so I'm trying not to cry in front of my dad, right? But that's my nature. I'm a crier. But so I'm trying to be tough, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool kiss. I'm just trying to play it off and not get emotional. So then I just rub my hand on my dad's back, and he looks up and he says, "Who's this Mexican faggot?" Not enough to start dying, and then the nurse looks over. She's like, "How long has your dad had Alzheimer's?" I'm like, 5 years, and she's like, "Honey, it gets funnier." And it's like these dark moments that are just like
of all the favorite punchlines I've heard that I can't say, that's a good one.
I know, that word, but it's a direct quote. Anyway, Seth, thank you so much for putting this together. I feel for everyone in this room. What you're doing is beautiful. It is thankless, and just remember to keep on laughing. It will help get you through this.
That was a beautiful answer, and I appreciate that. And I again, you know, of all the unrepeatable jokes, that's a great one. I think let's go now that you have your camera working. Jay Smiles, welcome back. You're no stranger to HFC or CareCon. You've helped us out so many times, and we're so glad you're here with us today. You worked in corporate America for years and became a full-time caregiver to your mother living with Alzheimer's, and then you fell in love with comedy and stumbled into that. Maybe, tell us a little bit about how comedy and caregiving became two such prevalent themes in your life, and how you navigate the two.
Absolutely. I love HFC. I can't lie. I could do a big billboard in Times Square for it. What this organization has done for me and my community. I have a podcast, Parenting Up, that's for family caregivers. And one thing that is kind of the same for what you hear caregivers talking about, and then what specifically we really do in comedy, especially improv, is how you never say no. Like you're just always supposed to go with it. Just always say yes. So like in improv, like whatever the other person on the stage says, if you're an alien monkey, you don't look at them and be like, what the hell? I'm not an alien. Like, where am I supposed to go with alien monkey? Get on the floor. I don't know, put some a wire hanger on your head. Go with it. The deal is always yes. And that's how I am with my mom. I'm in year 11 now, and we live together. All of my friends, I used to say, my mom lives with me, and they're like, no, you live with her. She's your mom. She's going to always be the mom. She's going to always be older. You live with her. And so the first and foremost, it's never no to her. And my God, she tells me, Dr. King is still alive. I'm originally from Montgomery, Alabama. Every April, Dr. King dies again.
Oh no, that's traumatic. That's like a terrible version of Groundhog Day. Martin Luther King Day. Again?
Gotta do it. Dr. King. She don't know nothing about all of, the warriors. Like, no, Dr. King just died. Oh my God, it is awful. But I gotta go with it. I gotta be sad all over again. She is incontinent. She walks out the bathroom, her pants are down, and she's walking into her room. It's a tripping hazard, right? Her adult diaper is down by her knees. I'm trying to go with it, right? Go with the yes. In improv is yes and, right? Well, all right, Mom, yeah, so we're done in the toilet, and let's pull this up. But let's not show it to them for free, right? We can't just give it to them for free. Let's at least get $20. No, guess what she gives me back? $20. If I give it to them, we're moving to Beverly Hills. A direct quote. Oh, lady, if you think Martin Luther King just died again, how the hell do you know that Beverly Hills costs more than where we live? So that's one thing. I don't know if y'all experienced that, but I'm like, sometimes you're real clear, and then other times you're not, and that's a little tricky. So for anybody who's maybe new to caregiving, just be ready for that roller coaster of tremendous clarity and then a fog that you're like, wow, what is this? Keep it playful. They're not trying to frustrate you. They don't want to be in this. Can you imagine that your body works like for so long in Alzheimer's? Your heart is fine. You're like, but my mom, she doesn't have anything else. Like, there's no cholesterol, no diabetes, no heart problem. All her other vitals are better than mine. But her brain isn't working. I can't imagine what she's feeling and going through, right? The number of times she has said, where is your damn daddy? I think he got another family. Truthfully, one time I got pissed with her and I was like, listen, you're not going to talk about my dead daddy no more. But she didn't remember he was dead. Now
Let's focus on the recent loss of Dr. Martin Luther King. So I understand.
She's like, but then she picked on me. Dad, when did he die? So now I feel like a total a-hole. I'm like, oh, wait. Okay, wait. He didn't die. What I said was, I'm not gonna let you talk about my daddy. Right. Like now I'm eating crow because she got me all riled up. So try not to let yourself get riled up, right? Because really improv is about keeping it really playful. Try to use the opportunity. So I was like, okay, Mom, you know what? He's at work. My dad was a trial lawyer. So I continue as much as I can. Like they always tell us to redirect, like in caregiving, you're supposed to redirect. That's what we are constantly doing in comedy too. You just, if we forget a joke on stage, the audience doesn't know what joke you wrote. Your parent or your loved one in caregiving, they don't know what you said this morning. You said you were gonna make eggs. So what, you give them avocado. They don't know you plan to give them eggs. Just go with the avocado. Hell, call the avocado or egg. They don't know that it's not an egg. Just give it to them. Don't frustrate yourself so much when it doesn't go according to plan. So that's been huge for me and huge with my mom. My mom is beating the statistics. We changed her diet. I don't ask her, do you not want, hey, Mom, is it okay if I don't put sugar, in your sweet tea? We're from the South. Sweet tea is only sugar with ice cubes. I didn't ask for that. We just slowly start putting a little less sugar, a little less sugar, a little less sugar, a little less sugar, till, 3 weeks later, there's no freaking sugar in the iced tea. And now she's doing better. And the doctors are noticing that stuff is better for her body. And so that's kind of the way I've been tackling it. And she's happier. When she was first diagnosed, her temperament was a little more tense. My mom, generally speaking, is a very happy person, and we're extremely close. It's been so hard to watch her lose her mind in front of me. She was a CPA, a forensic accountant. The woman she was the first to do a bunch of things as an African American, as a woman of color in the United States, as a CPA, and to watch her not know that $5, that a $5 bill is not a $100 bill. I was like, are you kidding me? You can't see these numbers, mama? She tipped a lady $100 for just doing a clear coat on her nails. I was like, oh, hell no. Give me your wallet. Girl, we gonna go broke. We ain't gonna never make it to Beverly Hills. Put your pants on. Give me your money. So it's been painful to watch, but humor has absolutely made a major difference. I got into comedy because being her caregiver was too heavy. It was too hard, and I needed something. I fell in love with comedy, and here we are. I demand that anyone who is going to be around her, if you had a bad day and can't keep it light, then you can't visit today. You come tomorrow. Leave all that crap.
That's a good rule in general. I would like to enact that. Well, I think no matter what, you would have found your way to comedy because you were a naturally hysterical person. I think you couldn't help but be funny, and so it's nice that you've found a way to talk about this stuff so hilariously and honestly, and it's real. I know people love to hear people share their stories, and honestly, you do it in such a hysterical way. I'm going to go over to Jessimae Peluso now. Thank you so much for joining us. You are a television podcast host, and you've been an advocate for Alzheimer's for a very long time as well. Your dad's diagnosis, unfortunately, must have been incredibly hard, but you've used comedy to navigate this journey a lot like me and these other hilarious panelists. So maybe, just tell us about that a little bit.
It's an honor to be here. I'm sitting and listening to everybody's stories and realizing how much we have in common and how many reoccurring issues and hilarious situations come up. So it's nice to feel that community and know that I've experienced something so many other people have experienced. And, the thing about Alzheimer's is you have to grieve them while they're alive. It's such a unique experience in that you're grieving and losing bits of them every day. And listening to Jay Smiles talk about how she discovered comedy through this journey and experience is a real testament to how important laughter is and how you can cry or you can laugh, and we've all done both, but figuring out how to survive is vital. And for me, Alzheimer's sort of drove me into this purpose of wanting to share my experience. So I did share a lot about my father, so some people might know some of these stories and anecdotes, but it really gave me a new perspective on how to survive in life and how to sort of approach situations. And with Howie, I had a similar experience with my dad. My dad and I spoke every single day. And one of the first times I realized something was wrong with him, I called and he yelled at me. He was like, "Who is this? I don't want to talk to you. Don't ever call back again." And I was like in shock. And now I have so much regret because I wish I would have recorded that and used it to play back to when people called me and I didn't want to talk to them.
You could have soundboarded him.
I could have soundboarded him. So my first tip is to record everything. You never know when it will come in of use later. And there's so much I learned, like, first and foremost, it's the disease, it's not them. It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. That's what you're dealing with. And finding a way to personify the disease sort of helps you find some levity in those moments. And one of the times my dad was in his memory care facility, my sister called me and said, "You got to come home, we need help." I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Well, the nurses called and they said Dad's throwing poop at his roommate." And I was like, "Well, okay, what did the roommate say? Like, do we even know if he instigated? Haven't we all wanted to toss poop at our roommates? Like, this isn't the disease. This is just a rude roommate. Like, let's back up a beat here."
I've had that happen in my 20s, yeah.
Of course. So save some poo. You never know when you might need it.
You got to keep a little jar of it.
You got to keep a little jar. The other tip I have is it's their world as you know it. Jay Smiles talked about this, and Nicole talked about it as well. The importance of improv. Yes, and will save your life, and it'll make the experience, although heartbreaking, somewhat manageable. And it came in real use. Like, I was at the neurologist appointment with my father, and my father was sitting there, and the doctor goes, "Well, tell us, Joe, how's everything going?" And my dad said, "Well, great. You know, I picked up my buds from the airport today. George Clooney, Robert De Niro, and Brad Pitt." And I just stood there. I just and the doctor looked at me, because not everybody has Alzheimer's or dementia language. Even doctors who are well versed in their areas don't really know how to handle it. And this wasn't a neurologist; it was actually just like a PCP. And he looked at me, and he just was like, and I go, yeah, George is here, Georgie Porge, good old Georgie Porge, Bobby D, and Brad Pitt. Yeah, they're all in town actually, because Brad and I are getting married. So if you could wrap this up, I'm a little late for my own wedding. Let's get this thing going. There are so many tools and so many ways to survive this and find some joy in it. And there are painful moments. I think Chris said Alzheimer's can be bleak, but it also can be hilarious and heartfelt, and I truly believe in that. And finding ways to sort of navigate through the tips that everyone has discussed today can really help those situations. One time it was really uncomfortable for us, because although the improv of it all helps, sometimes you don't know how to react, because they say things that throw you off. And there was a very difficult day when my dad, he hit on my sister. And it really hurt me, because I'm the hot one. You know? Wow. You know, it just...
I'm sorry for you, Jessimae.
It hits different when your father forgets you, but when he doesn't want to fuck you. But then I was excited, because I realized he doesn't have Alzheimer's, he's blind. It's just
Oh dear God.
It's a heavy subject. And
It's a heavy subject. These are the places you find yourself going when dealing with this disease. I didn't promise a painless panel. That was my one disclaimer going into this.
Yes. Look, this is one of the most difficult diseases. We have to be as real as we can be. You know, there's so many different scenarios that can break you, and you know, I'm a true believer that life is full of lessons and blessings, and finding those in each moment can be a real saver for you and for your family. Because the thing about this disease is the people who tend to suffer the most are the caregivers, the ones that are there for the family members who are living in the darkness of Alzheimer's. And I found a lot of tools in meditation. Music was an amazing tool for us to bring him back. Music has this amazing ability to activate all parts of your brain. All parts of your brain get activated. It's one of the only tools that can do that. And so finding the era that your loved one loved the most, playing that music, is a really amazing therapy for everybody. And marijuana, not gonna lie, marijuana helped a ton. It was a medicine.
What I can tell.
I know. You should try it. I think you might enjoy it.
I've heard really good things.
Yeah, it's kind of an amazing thing. And the last, I'll wrap up what I wanted to share with everybody. How marijuana helped, because I don't want to just throw a blanket statement out there just to be, further some agenda people might think I have. I truly experienced a medicinal effect. My father and I used to speak every day, like Howie was mentioning with his mother, and when my father's phone calls got fewer and fewer, it was harder for me. So I needed something to help me navigate those moments, and marijuana became the conversation with myself that I needed to replace the one I was missing with my dad. And one morning my dad called, and this is where the improv comes in. This is where the, Jekyll and Hyde, this is where it all sort of culminated for me. My dad called and he said, my mind's a little foggy. I just need some help. And I'm here stoned, walking in my neighborhood at 8 o'clock in the morning. I was like, all right, let's go, Joe. What do you got? Like, what do we need to navigate through here together? And he goes, who's Emily? I was like, oh, Emily, yeah. That's one of your daughters, man. I don't trust her. I don't trust her at all. I think she might be stealing from you. You should take her off the will immediately. Take her off the will. And he kind of giggled, and I laughed, and then he goes, okay, now, who's Nancy? And I was like, Nancy, that's one of your wives. You guys still got a thing for each other. You guys are cute. You should try it. See what happens. And he kind of giggles, and then he goes, okay, now, who are you? And that question on a sober mind can be detrimental to your best friend forgetting who you are. But because I was so high, I just took it as like an existential question. I was like, yeah, who am I? Who's anybody? So a lot of tools, a lot of resources I found in your foundation for myself. And I honestly, I feel so grateful to be here. I love what you do in entertainment. I love what everyone else does here. And just to use your platform to bring so much light to such a dark and heavy subject, and something that so many people experience in our culture is really honorable. And I feel so grateful to be here.
Well, thank you so much. Well, this has been amazing, and honestly, we're pretty much exactly out of time. So you all spoke for the exactly perfect amounts of time. Congratulations, each of you. I didn't have to moderate that, and that was the easiest moderation. That you don't have to moderate when everyone is speaking in perfect moderation. So thank you very much. I honestly can't thank you all enough. It's truly probably incalculable how impactful it is to hear people like you all tell these truly hilarious stories about the truly terrible things you're going through. It is like a rare gift to be able to receive like such great comedy, so purely extracted from such a terrible thing, and it's not lost on me how hard that is as someone who does this, and it's an admirable pursuit, even to fail at, and you all have succeeded marvelously at it. So I just can't thank you enough for joining me here and making me laugh so hard, and by saying all these truly disgusting things. Some genuinely terrible things have been tattooed in my brain, and I can't thank you enough for that. So everyone, all the attendees, please make your way to the main stage now. Make your way to the main stage as this room is empty. And thank you all so much, my panelists. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll talk to you soon. Appreciate it. Bye.
Bye.